if we know there's potential negativity that could come from this, what's the reason why you agree to do it?
Because I know it'll help like the younger people out there, and I know that I could have a small impact on how people tell their kids and what they say to their kids. And I think that that's important for people to know.
What's going on YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. And today, this is actually the first time we've done this. Today, I have my daughter, Lauren, who's joining us. And she's going to talk a little bit about her experience, what this has been like for her prior to me going to prison, during prison, and kind of where we are today, and why she has decided to help me working with my clients, specifically those who have, I would say, young children up till teenage to early adult. Right. Lauren, why don't you start off telling everybody a little bit about who you are, your take on all of this, and why you think it would be good to help people that are going through probably one of the roughest times of their life.
Well, I know that there's not a lot of help for younger kids because they're not like the main focus when their parents are going to prison. So I know that my experiences can help other people kind of learn how to deal with it and how to get through it.
I think a lot of people that are watching this right now, if they didn't already feel like that, I don't think anybody could disagree with you that has kids that is going through this. Some of the questions that I get from a lot of parents, one of them is, when is the right time to tell your kids? What do you tell your kids? How do you tell your kids? And obviously, it's all age dependent, age appropriate. Little kids, I would say 7 or 8 or younger, probably aren't going to comprehend. But for somebody of your age, when you went through this, tell everybody how old you were when this started for you, or at least when you can actually remember, and tell them how you wish you had known and what you wish I had told you differently.
I was probably like 9 or 10 when you went to prison, and I wish that I had known like the whole truth kind of, instead of having like my feelings protected. I was old enough to have known everything that was going on, because I found out when I was a lot older what had actually happened, and I feel like it would have helped me cope with it better.
So do you remember what I told you when this all started, when I told you that I was possibly looking at prison time?
You told me that you were working at a pharmacy and you kind of like got caught up in the wrong crowd, and they were selling drugs to people who didn't really need them. But you said that you weren't like a part of it or anything, and like the police system kind of just took you guys in. And I guess I believed it.
Yeah, and you said something earlier, you wish I hadn't lied to you in order to protect your feelings. I don't think I did it to protect your feelings. I don't think a lot of parents do it to protect their feelings of their children. They may say that's why they're doing it, because it makes them feel better about lying to their kids. But honestly, when I told you what I told you, and I don't remember exactly what I said, I think it was something along the lines of pretty much what you just said. I said I worked for a doctor's office that was overprescribing pain medication to its clients, that I had no idea, and that the government was just going to wrap everybody up in the indictment. And there was nothing I could do to get out of it, even though I had no knowledge and I did nothing wrong, but I still have to go to prison. That's kind of the story that I sold to you. But the important thing for those of you that are watching right now is I didn't do it to protect Lauren. I didn't do it to protect her feelings. I did it because I was ashamed and embarrassed of her knowing that I actually did something that was going to take me away from her, and for her to know that it was potentially my fault. I couldn't come to terms with that. So it was easier for me to lie to my daughter and create such an after effect of my actions then, which I'm still dealing with to this day. There's still conversations and battles that you and I have about all of the pain that I put you and your sister and your mother through. How do you think a parent should tell their child? How soon do you think they should tell them, and what manner should they tell them in?
I think as soon as you tell all your like adult family, then you should like gather your child into a room with whoever you live with and tell them as soon as you can. Don't wait like a year, don't wait until like a week before it happens. Then it's going to be harder because they're not going to have as much time to, they're not going to know that they have to like spend time with you before you're gone for however long.
So the sooner the better. And basically what Lauren's telling you guys is, when you tell your kids, or you tell anybody for that, and this doesn't just go for your children, this goes for your family and friends too. I know a lot of you are in denial. You're embarrassed. You don't want to tell anybody because it makes it real. But as time gets closer and closer to you either self-surrendering or going to trial, whatever it might be, specifically with children, there's a process period that's going to take place where you tell them today, and it may not quite hit them or fully impact them for several weeks or even a couple of months. So the more time you give them to process and understand this and open up the dialogue of conversation, letting them know it's okay to ask questions, to the point where you're encouraging them to ask questions. I remember dealing with my children going through this. After I told them about it, it was very rare that they would bring it up from that point forward. They would very rarely ask me anything about it, mention it. It was almost like a taboo subject that they didn't want to talk about because, again, talking about it makes it very real. So I remember trying to ask you guys questions. What do you think about me going to prison? Why do you think it was so hard for you to talk about it?
The hardest part about like talking about it was just how it was kind of like an uncomfortable subject to talk about because I had never experienced anything like it, and I didn't quite know how I was feeling really. Like I was really confused about my emotions and I didn't know how to like express them properly. So I would just kind of get like uncomfortable and giggly and like avoid the questions.
Which I think is pretty understandable. I mean, it's a tough subject, and it's your job as a parent. Not every child's going to be super outspoken and have a million and one questions. I'm sure, were there questions that were going through your mind that you never said or that you didn't feel comfortable asking?
I think I was a very naive kid. I kind of just went with what people told me. So I wasn't really questioning like, is he actually as innocent as he says he is? Is he telling me the truth? Like I was kind of just like, that's my dad. Of course he's gonna tell me the truth. I didn't know like how much of a actual like big deal it was. So I didn't have much questions about how real it was.
What do you think goes through the average child's mind? And let's say average child, meaning from the age of like 9 to 18. What do you think goes through their mind when their parent says, I might be going to prison? What do you think a child imagines when their father or mother tells them that? What kind of visualizations pop in your head, and how do you see that kind of playing out?
Well, like when I was told for the first time, I was kind of thinking like like prisons from like the movies, like in Hancock and like Beyond Scared Straight, stuff like that. Like everyone's like rioting all the time, like there's stabbings and like, a lot of inappropriate things going on.
And I'm pretty sure that's probably exactly how everybody's going to imagine prison that's never been, including adults. I had a little bit of a realistic expectation just because I had, been doing Googling and going online and reading about it. But a child, I imagine that's exactly what they're going to think. And if the parent is not opening a proper line of communication with their child during those types of situations, I believe that a mind can go crazy and run away with itself, to where if you're not having regular conversations with your child to the type of facility you may be going to, that's where their mind is going to spider off into. And it can become a very depressing point of view for the child, because now you've already put them in a situation to where they don't know how to talk to you about what they're going through. Now they also think that you're going to be in danger and fearing for your life, and maybe you won't even come home. But how often do you think a parent should bring it up to try to engage a child in conversation?
I think it should be brought up at like the right time. Talk about it like after or when you're having like dinner, when everybody's sitting at the table together, and see if anyone has any questions, talk about it a little bit more, say stuff that you think they might be questioning in their heads, even though they don't say it.
So kids that are at the age of, let's say, 9 and up, would you say the average child has access to the internet, Google, search engines to some extent? Because a lot of parents will even tell their children they're going to the military, they're going away for a job. Do you think kids would believe that story? Or do you think at some point they're going to come across the internet and see what you really did?
I think with the way social media is now, it'll kind of come up like on Facebook or something.
How upset do you think a child would be? Let's say I told you, Lauren, I'm going to be going into the military for the next 42 months and I won't be able to see you, but we can have phone calls here and there. What do you think would have happened if we had did that, and that's how me and your mom told you, and then a year in, 6 months in, something gets emailed to you, somebody says something, you come across it by accident, and you found out that I was in prison without me telling you? How do you think that would have made you feel?
I would have been really angry, because that's a really big lie to tell, lying about where you're going and for such a long time. I feel like it's just not right.
What do you think a parent would say? If you said to a parent, why did you lie to your child?
They definitely say that they were trying to protect them and spare their feelings, but again, it's just to cover up what they did and to avoid all of that kind of conversation.
So I can obviously only speak for myself because I can't speak for other people, but I can tell you most of my life, my early adult life up until the last 5 years or so ago, I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of to make money. And I would always tell myself, I'm doing these things to take care of my family. I'm doing these things to provide a life for my family that I didn't have, or whatever the excuse was. And the reality is, those were the ideas and the thoughts that I used to justify myself taking shortcuts, being lazy, not putting in the hard work, and really not facing consequences. And it made me sleep a little easier at night, coming up with these bullshit excuses. So, in my opinion, there's no difference in that. And that segues over into when you decide to not tell your child or tell your child a lie, like I did. I was already in a pattern of making horrible choices, making bad decisions, uh, really only thinking about myself. In the end, you're not lying to your children to save them. You're not doing the crimes that you committed to fulfill your family obligations. You're doing it because, at least I did it because I was selfish and I wanted nice things, but I didn't necessarily want to put in the work like other individuals have done in the past to get those things. So making all of these excuses really led me to making the ultimate excuses of lying to you and your sister and your mother and everybody else, wanting to play the victim because I did not want people to look at me, because I didn't want to see myself as a bad person or a scumbag or, somebody that wasn't responsible. I didn't want to be viewed that way. So I couldn't admit it to myself. And I think that's where it all starts, is you have to be honest with yourself first. Then you can start becoming honest with your kids, your family, friends, things of that nature. Did you feel alone and segregated, kind of like an outcast when you did comprehend it? When I did go to prison, as you got a little bit older, did you feel like there was people to reach out to and talk to?
I didn't really have anyone to talk to except for my therapist at the time, and I had a friend who I would kind of confide in, but she didn't really understand because she never had a dad or mom that went to prison. So it was kind of just me getting all my feelings out, and she would help me like respond to the emails that we would send back and forth because I didn't exactly know like what to talk about. I had my friend to talk to.
Did you ever feel as if you were to go talk to your friends, did you ever feel like they wouldn't understand and they may judge you or poke fun at you?
I definitely had a couple people that would make fun of me for it and use it against me a lot, like over the internet, kind of like internet bullying from some of my close friends, which is why they even knew in the first place. So there was a lot of people that did have bad opinions about it, and I stopped telling a lot of people because of it. They would say that you were like a drug dealer and like you're in prison because you're like a bad dad. And they didn't know the full story and the extent of it. I mean, neither did I really, but I still tried to like defend you and my mom at times because they said that my mom was also like a drug dealer and just like mean stuff like that.
Hearing these hurtful things, how did you deal with it? What would you do when somebody would say these hurtful things to you?
I would usually call them and confront them. And at the time, my anger issues were really bad, so I would kind of get very violent. I would like scream on the phone, and I would like threaten them, and sometimes I would pull my hair a lot when I would get like angry like that. So
What's worked for you now that time has gone by? What are some things that have helped you get through this? And where do you think you are now in your life with all of this? Are you still dealing with it? Has it gotten easier? Have you found ways to cope with it and use it as a positive means in your life?
I used my friends so that I didn't really have to think about it a lot. But over time, it did get easier to deal with. And now that you make like YouTube videos, and I can obviously like see that you learned from what happened, and I know that you're not going to do it again. And it makes me feel better to know that other people are watching you and learning from your mistakes and trying to like better themselves. So
My sweet daughter. I'm trying really hard not to cry in this whole video, guys, so bear with me. Uh, how hard is it for you? Because you see me, I do the YouTube videos every day. So for me, it's like normal to hear people talking trash to me or people to make mean, hurtful comments. But you do understand by making these videos, you agreeing to come on here, there is potential for people to not agree with your point of view. How do you think you'll deal with hurtful comments that possibly could come from even this video today?
I've learned to deal with these like those kind of comments a lot better. I don't take them to heart because they don't know me, they don't know you.
So making this video, who would you say, if we know there's potential negativity that could come from this, what's the reason why you agree to do it?
Because I know it'll help like the younger people out there, and I know that I could have a small impact on how people tell their kids and what they say to their kids. And I think that that's important for people to know.